All right. Welcome to the Youngstown Click podcast, our very first episode. I'm so excited. As you guys know, the veteran Youngstown Clickers, you know that everything that we do is about connection and community and expanding our knowledge of who's around us and what's around us. So this is so exciting because I'm about to introduce you to you right off the bat, somebody who you've probably seen billboards around town about, and now we're going to let you know the backstory. But before we get it started, I wanted to let you guys know where we're coming from. We are coming from the studios at Cigarro Cigar Lounge here in Hubbard, Ohio. This is such a cool place. It's such a place of connection and community. So many different people, whether you're a guest or a member, first time you walk through the door, conversation is to be had. It's just a fun place to be. So this is going to be the home of the Youngstown Click podcast. Also, I wanted to let you know our sponsor of today's podcast is Ohio Flame. They are amazing. They create steel forged fire pits. They make these quality fire pits that are incredible in all kinds of unique designs. Nothing quite says community like a bonfire. When you get invited over to somebody's house for a bonfire, the fire draws people, even strangers.
Absolutely.
So they are our sponsor. So guys, make sure you check them out, ohioflame.com, and just know that they support everything that we're doing. And they are the main supporters right now of our Youngstown Click podcast. So let's go ahead and get right into this. Donna McAuley, you are an incredible woman. You have been through so much. If you guys have seen those billboards all throughout Youngstown that says, say no to the F word. The F means fentanyl. That is because of my guest today, Donna McAuley. And then we have, in addition to her, we have Ron King. Ron King has been working with people with substance abuse, with behavior modification throughout the nation. So I'm so honored. He just happens to be in town. He's from here, but we just happened to get him to be a guest on this show. So we're about to get started. Donna, why don't we get right into it? Tell us a little bit about what you've been through and kind of what brings you here today. Why have you decided to put these billboards up throughout town?
Well, it is don't use the F word because it is bringing awareness to fentanyl that's in the drugs that will kill you. And
tell us a little bit about your daughter. Aside from the drugs, aside from her journey with addiction, tell us a little bit about her.
my Amanda, she was so real. She was genuine and fun. She was the most unjudgmental person I knew. I mean, yeah, she was the coolest girl.
A lot of people seem to have very high things to say about her. She seemed
Yes.
like she just changed the room when she walked in.
She totally did. She was always present. She was in the moment. I've learned so much. It's so weird to me how you learn after somebody passes. You learn so much about them and want to be more like them.
Kids loved her, right?
Everybody loved her. Kids, she had a gift with kids. She just, because she played with them. I've been, since she passed, I've been learning a lot. Okay.
So you're actually very good. But let's back up for a minute and talk about what did she want to do. So she's a little girl, right? Spontaneous. And what did she want to do in life? Like, what was her ambition?
Amanda, born an artist, a performer. She was so artistic, whether it was drawing, painting, acting, modeling. She was good at all of them. She's very artistic.
Very artistic.
Yes.
And she
Creative.
went to Poland, right? Poland High School.
She did. And
so
she was a cheerleader.
Aww. And so chances are that those of you listening, if you've ever been to a Poland football game or something, you have seen the girl who we're
Absolutely.
speaking about. This is not somebody who's just, sometimes we alienate the people that we see in the news or on a billboard. We alienate them like they aren't somebody that we could have run into just around town. Okay, so
Yes.
then tell us a little bit about what happened. When did you realize, okay, so she's a cheerleader, right? And she graduated. Did you see any kind of signs or problems while she was in high school?
No, but I will say that, well, Amanda was diagnosed with asthma when she was young.
Okay.
And she was put on prescriptions, so that gave her a little bit of anxiety with the medication. But when she was in
Okay.
third grade, she was tested and she got an IEP.
Okay.
She hated having that learning disability. It gave her anxiety.
So then so before that, you didn't see any anxiety. You didn't
No.
see, she was just a happy-go-lucky kid.
No.
But once she got tested
She
and
felt
supposedly
different in
had
school. It was
okay.
instantly, I'm different in school.
Was it the other kids she was afraid of or the teacher?
It was more a teacher. She cried every morning saying she didn't want her teacher to think she was stupid. She didn't like being labeled. And I think that's the problem with our schools. She just learned different. It's okay to be different.
Right. So thinking about fourth grader, third grader, fourth grader, having that anxiety before going to a place that you're going to spend 8 hours of your day in stressed out, that
Every day.
had to have been horrible to see.
She threw up every single morning before school, and she missed more school than any kid should because of the anxiety she
Isn't
had.
that something?
It's
So
awful.
then she grew up and she found her outlet in cheerleading and stuff. Did you see any kind of drug problem, or how did she deal with that anxiety all through high school?
No, Amanda didn't have any problems with. She made friends easy. She hated being labeled, but her thing was just her learning. It just.
Took a little bit.
But I do remember she was 13 years old, and I do remember her coming because she was a very honest little girl, and she just said to me, she said, "Mom," she said, "I tried weed," she said, "and I really liked it. It made me not worry about if
And she had
my
spent all those
grades
years in
and-
worry.
and if I had friends, anything." She said she liked it.
Okay, so that was a significant mark in her life at 13. So she became a cheerleader, and then she eventually wanted to get into modeling, right? And acting, or just modeling?
Truthfully, her senior year, she really didn't. She was my only one that didn't show that she had interest in college.
Okay.
And I said, everybody doesn't have to go to college.
Okay.
I mentioned a contest they were having. I said, why don't you try this? It was a pageant, and then they had categories, modeling and acting, all different categories. And she said, no, thank you. I'm not a pageant girl. And I said, well, you can win $1,000 if you win any of them. She said, okay, I'm in. And we went to Columbus, and she won top model
Really?
for Ohio, Miss Teen Top Model. That was the National American Miss Contest. And then they sent you to Hollywood for international, and she won top model there also.
What?
And she was first
Right from
runner-up in
home.
acting, which that led her into, and she was just very natural because she was a very...
So she found her stride, and she was good, and she
And she was
she
good.
really enjoyed it.
Yes.
Unexpectedly, which is really cool. So at that point in time, a lot of people would have looked at her and thought, man, this girl's got everything. She's beautiful. She
did.
won all these national competitions.
She did.
She's okay. So then she decided to pursue it and move out to LA, correct?
Well, I sent her to Akron, PMTM. And,
Okay.
And that's an agency in Akron, and it's a great agency, and where they asked her to be part of a team, IMTA, which is in, they have it twice a year in New York and
Okay.
in California. So she went to that, and she did amazing, and agencies wanted her, so she signed with an agency. I moved her to California.
And how old was she around that time?
Well, she just graduated. She was
just
young.
graduated.
She was 18, turning 19.
Okay. Oh, so that had to have been an exciting and scary time
She
at the
was-
same time. So, okay. Now, had she continued to smoke weed throughout this whole process from the time that she said, "Mom, I tried it, I liked it"?
Yes, she did.
Okay, so she
It
was,
was always an issue with me because as gifted as she was, I know a lot of people smoke weed, but it personally for her, it was a little too chill for her. So it
Got it.
didn't give her the motivation that it does maybe some people.
Okay.
I don't have anything against weed, but
Right.
it wasn't for Amanda.
okay. So, okay, but that is something that she continued to do it seemed kind of harmless
Right.
at that point, which
And
is
it
how a
was
lot
legal.
of people view it. Okay, a lot of
In
people.
California, it was legal.
Okay, so now, Ron, we're going to come to you real quick. And as with your background, you've dealt with so many stories, I'm sure, so many people who've walked different roads. What are your thoughts about people in this situation? There's people out there right now, at this moment, right where your daughter was at that point, just smoking weed, just to chill out, anxious about school.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about some of your experience kind of up until that point.
I guess I'll jump in at the point where, if we go back to what Donna was saying about Amanda, one of the things that makes me fearful of young people in the world we're in now, because if you go back years ago when we were younger, there were certain things that you could get away with because life wasn't as dangerous.
Yeah, that's true.
As it is today.
Right.
So,
they were just sowing their wild oats. You hear.
we could get away with, we could be young and stupid, and there was no major cost to just being young and stupid. If you're out and you're doing things that committing crimes, that's one thing. But just being just basically young and stupid and unaware, people just look at you and kind of like laugh and say one day he'll grow up.
Right.
Today in this world we live in today, young people can't afford to be just recklessly unaware and stupid. We have to bring them up to where this world is right now because it's so dangerous today. Mistakes that you can make today can cost you your life, when back when we were younger, it wasn't the same way. And one of the things about Amanda, getting to know her as well as I did, was that one of the things that made me fearful for her and young people like her is that Amanda was fearless.
Okay.
She was the type of person that did not worry or fear anything out there when she went out into the world. It wasn't like that she felt like she could beat people up or she was bigger and badder than everybody. It wasn't that type of thing.
No.
It was just where she just wasn't afraid of what the possibilities were because they weren't going to happen to her.
Right. Okay. Now I'm glad you said that, because to me, fearless is such a great thing. I mean, you need to be fearless in so many. I mean, the world tells you that you can't do everything that you dream about doing. There's whole organizations saying, hey, figure out what you want to do and go for it and stop talking yourself out of it. So fearless could have been her greatest strength, but I've heard your greatest strength can be your greatest weakness, and your greatest weakness can be your greatest strength. And I really believe, like you said, the knowledge of saying it's not going to happen to me.
Right.
Fearless out of that. I think I remember being a teenager and seeing all these things and thinking, oh man, that's crazy. And there's a disconnect, as well there should be, because you're young and it's the adult world is still out there. So to put that on teenagers is kind of, it's a definitely, but I think, like you said, this issue is too dangerous to, I remember living in New York City, and my friends nonstop try to get me to try drugs with them. Just try it. Don't knock it till you try it. You don't know until you try it.
Right.
All this stuff. It's there's no results. There's no consequence. Just try it one time. But I used to answer them and say, what if I like it? It's not really a road I want to go down. I don't want the cost. What if I like it? And then what if I try it and I hate it and I hate how I feel on it and I can't wait to get sober again? I'm going to wish I didn't do it. So either way, no.
That's what I want. That's what we need to start putting back to our kids. I mean, what happened to say no to drugs? We're not teaching kids that anymore.
Right.
It just kind of fell off.
It's just, well, it's because the parents are doing it too, because of prescriptions. But you mentioned something, Ron. I did not mean to interrupt you. So go ahead but also this might be a good time you had mentioned before we started that we tend to think that the people that we hear about, the people that we see, the stories, people in the newspaper, we tend to think that these were people who were unlike the normal people right next to us. So tell us a little bit about your experience with some of the people that you've seen fall into addiction, and then we'll get back to Amanda's particular story.
Okay, well, I'll go into that right off of what, with Amanda, when you talk in terms of being fearless, everything has an antithetical way of looking at it. You could, on a coin, there is a head and there's a tail.
Okay.
So you always have to look at what is the flip side of every situation, because just because you don't look on the other side of that coin doesn't mean it's not there. So you always have to be able to be aware that there is an antithetical or an opposite side to how you see things. And for some reason, people today and young people today don't get that, and it takes away from us and people just basic coping mechanisms on how to deal with life's surprises. And one of the myths about drug addicted people and people who have alcoholism as an addiction is to label those people in our minds socially as some kind of way being quote unquote bad people. Okay. I'm so glad my son is not that type of kid. I'm so glad my daughter is not that type. Oh, thank God that, God blessed us, with having such a wonderful kid. Well, then you must be saying that God cursed that family. And in reality, that is not what happened. It's the differences of opinion and personalities that cause people to do things. And in knowing that people are not bad people, sometimes you can get caught up in addiction just because you are just young and impressionable.
Yes.
Impressionable is a fearful place to be, because that just simply means that when this kid is impressionable, when they walk into a situation, they're subject to whatever is going on in there, because they don't have the intestinal fortitude, the foundation, the grounding that they should have been taught as a young person. They didn't have that foundation to basically have an ideology in their life that says, number one, I know exactly what I'm going to do no matter what. Number two, I know exactly what I'm not going to do no matter what. So given the situation, I know when I walk in, I know what I'm going to do, and I know what I'm not going to do. And kids today don't have that, so it's impressionable. When they walk in, it's whatever happens, they end up being brought into it. They don't have the ability, they're very naive. So being naive means that when somebody tells you something, you have a tendency to believe.
Yeah.
Okay, and they don't have that, doubt is not a good attribute per se, but it's a necessary tool.
That's
for
true.
you to be able to look at a situation and say, you know what, if somebody's going to tell me, try this, I have to be able to not be naive, but be doubtful that they're saying it won't hurt you.
Yeah.
Well, is that a chance? Is that a chance that I need to take? It doesn't matter what it is. You know what I mean? Like kids go to college and they're convinced that if they drink a gallon of water, that they're not getting hurt. And we got water poisoning. Kids die from drinking too much water at one time. The body can't process it.
Are you serious? I didn't hear about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, this is the hazing for college colleges. And it's not drinking alcohol, they drink water, and kids die from drinking more water than the body can process. Right. But they don't believe, they're so naive that they believe it can't.
They want to fit in.
You have to weigh life. Yeah. How important is life compared to the things that you're willing to try? And my experiences are that so many people who are drug addicted are not necessarily depressed.
Okay.
They're not necessarily
angry
at something. They don't have a life situation, some type of PTSD situation to happen that they're trying to forget or overcome. Sometimes it's just a social environment that now that social environment has been infused with these deadly things. That we used to be, when I went to a party, the worst could happen, we'd sneak and somebody bring beer in.
Right.
You know what I mean? But now somebody's bringing in blues, pills, and everything. They bring cocaine. They're bringing crack cocaine. And perfect example, you said, which is what I've experienced. I have a client in Brooklyn, New York. And the father said to me that it's from the Caribbean, and he said his daughter raised her. She was a straight A student in high school. She was a great student when she went to college. She went to school to be an RN. And she never went out partying, all the time. She wasn't a night owl, running the streets. Yeah. She went to school. She came home. She went to college, and she lived with her parents. She graduated high school as an RN. She got hired at the hospital in Brooklyn. Okay. And she still lived with her mom and dad. And she was the kind of kid that was respectful to where even though she was grown, and she could make her own decisions and do what she wanted to do, she still would tell her mom and dad where she was going. Okay. And when she would be back. Okay. So they respected her that way, and they gave her freedom. One day she comes home from work and she tells her dad that some friends from work are having a party. And they said it's going to be a great party, a lot of people from work, and she wanted to go. And her dad, he said, I told her, Ron, you're grown. You can go to the party if you want to, Right. And she said, well, I just wanted to make sure that it was okay. Oh. And he said, sure, it's okay, hon. You can go to the party. And she got herself dressed, and she was excited to go to this work-related party. He said, and Ron, my daughter that I know left this house. Oh, no. And never came back. Oh, no. He said she came back physically. Her body came back into this house. But the daughter that I knew never came back again. I never saw her again because at the party, someone convinced her to try a drug that altered her personality and mindset forever.
Forever. One time trying it.
One time. Okay? One time. And she was never the same again. And from that point on, she lost her job. Yeah. And basically ended up sometimes not coming home, walking the streets. She was a crack addict.
Oh, my goodness.
And this father was devastated. Definitely. By that because guilt, should I have let her go?
Right. Of course.
And my answer to him is, in reality, you couldn't have stopped her. Right. Because she was grown. If you had told her no, she came to ask you. Right. Because she felt like you would tell her that it was okay because she wasn't that person. Yes. That was constantly going. Yeah. So why would my dad say no? I'm just going to respectfully ask him. So if you said no, it might have eroded the relationship that you have with your daughter because she trusted you that you trusted her. Right. So he questioned what he did wrong. Right. Which is what so many parents do. They try to figure out in the situation, where did I go wrong? And they lose sight of the power of the world in which we live in. When you step out into the world, the best you can do is equip your children with the tools that they need to be able to face that demon when he shows up.
Right. And the trust that she had for a coworker, the trust that, like, when she goes, oh, no, I don't want to get addicted, or I don't want to do that. Oh, why not? I mean, I'm fine. I do it every weekend. It's literally like those people who have a voice, and they're literally the devil's advocate. They couldn't care less what happens to that person when they walk out the door, but something in them just wants to, like, make sure you try it. Make sure you get it. Mm-hmm. There was here in Hubbard, there's a waitress. She told me about it. A friend, good-looking kid in high school. They were all friends. He went to a party in Pittsburgh. She said he was a good kid. He went for this music. It was like but she said, I never knew him to do drugs. He wasn't a drug addict. He just, they're young. So he gets invited to this party in Pittsburgh, goes to this party, and at the party feels something splash on him, some water or something. But, it's a party. Everybody's, just having a good time. So he wipes it off, thinking somebody, spilled water or whatever. What had happened was somebody literally sprayed out of a water bottle some sort of drug in liquid form. And because he did not do drugs, it was such a shock to his system. He ended up in the hospital so high, and to this day he wanders around town, not Hubbard, but I forget, one of those smaller towns, just wanders around. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows he's harmless. But his mind has never been right again. And he was not, they said, had that happened to somebody who did drugs regularly, it would have been
Okay.
like a hit. But it was such a shock to his system just because he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And somebody, for some reason, decided that that was a good thing. And those are the stories that, really, need to be told, especially in schools, because that's where these kids are. That's where they have to be. Once they're home, they're on social media or doing this or that. But parents, never underestimate your conversation with your kids, So, Donna, going back to Amanda, we bring her back to, okay, so she graduates, you move her out to LA, and you were excited for her, right?
Absolutely. And
What
she
happened?
was excited. She loved it. She was getting auditions and she actually went out when she was young, and then she did get to know a little too many people. Was a little bit too party. She was
Okay.
young, so I did bring her home, and she grew up a little bit and wanted to do it again. So she re-signed with the agency, went back out there. Unfortunately, when I moved her out there and moved home, COVID, that was I remember the day everything shut down. That is
Wow.
when
So she was out there on her own now,
she was.
and everything got shut.
Everything got shut. She was in a house with other people were renting rooms. That's how they do that in California. And they became like a little family, but she was very nervous with her asthma, and somebody was passing out Xanax.
For free.
Well, yes,
My
that was
goodness.
that. It was. I think it was it couldn't have been a prescription because it was laced with fentanyl, and that was the beginning of, and it just right away took over her
Right.
body.
So that's her. That was the real,
Start.
the real start of her Xanax laced with fentanyl.
Well, that's it. They're lacing fentanyl in all the drugs now, and you don't even know it. You think you're getting one thing. That's why my thing is to get to the kids where they
Right.
just can't try anything.
Anything. Can one of you
cannot
guys
take-
explain how fentanyl is different than maybe some of the drugs that we've known before?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, there was, if we go back years ago, there was a drug back years ago that was a horse tranquilizer,
Oh wow. Okay.
and in a powder, and you sprinkle it on cigarettes or whatever and smoke it, and it would be like you would be literally out of your mind.
Oh my.
And fentanyl today is an animal tranquilizer. And it's 100 times, I think, more powerful than morphine. And the reason why all of this started with, if we go back, if we give credit to who the credit is due,
Okay. Let's do it.
the credit to this drug addicted time we're in, and this heavily laden death
Yeah.
specter that's hanging over our country with fentanyl, it all starts back with the pharmaceutical companies that basically came up with this drug called oxycodone. And knowing the addictive properties associated with it, along with its pain relieving,
Yeah.
the addictive part of it was basically obscured from the public
Right.
because of the amount of money that they were going to make. Once people started taking oxycodone, OxyContin, whatever, they got addicted to the pills, basically only trying to assuage their pain from a car accident
Right.
or whatever, shoulder injury or something, so they're trying to assuage their pain. And then after the pain of the injury has somewhat subsided, they're left with this addiction and this drive to get more of this particular drug. And when the prescription runs out and know you can't get any more, now
Right.
they seek to buy this drug on the street
Wow.
for people who get the prescription but don't need the prescription. So now they sell it to those who are addicted to it, and then they're buying it on the street. Once the oxycodone, which is an opioid, is no longer available,
Okay.
then the next closest thing to that same feeling is heroin. So now, and heroin is cheaper to buy than
the
the oxy.
prescriptions.
Yes. So they seek the heroin to basically deal with the addiction that they can't get these pills.
Right.
So now they become a heroin addict. Okay.
And these are people that were working.
These are working people.
Right. These are just, moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and kids. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why you see people, they find people who have overdosed sitting in their cars, overdosed, they've deceased. There's a child strapped in the car seat in the back. You know, these are regular, everyday people. And now with the heroin, it goes over to where they, in order to try and make the heroin make more money, the drug dealers are now mixing things with it to stretch it out. And one of the things that someone came up with the idea in the middle, in China and somewhere, that to start mixing this horse tranquilizer, fentanyl, into the heroin to stretch it. You know, and it got to the point where there was a time period where, when I used to work with the coroner in Warren before he passed away, he used to share with me the numbers, and I used to go and sit with him at the coroner's office, and he would show me the number, how many bodies had rolled in the coroner's office that month, and show me the grid of their names and their nationality and their age and what drug was found in their system when they were deceased and where they found them at the time, because that was relevant, because it gives basically an understanding of when the person gets the drug, are they so addicted to where they can go home and then use the drug, or are they so addicted that they can't get home yet, so they pull in the back parking lot of McDonald's, you know, a Burger King. Right. And that's where they do it at. So they log where they found them at, you know, but it would show heroin, fentanyl. And it's when fentanyl was showing up in the drug, and it was laced in the heroin. Now, when you see more and more people now, it's basically, it's a mixture, but it's a lot of people, it's just fentanyl. And the bad part about that is the person who's buying it doesn't know. They don't know. When they buy the drug, no one's going to tell you that that's fentanyl. And then there are those people that know that it's fentanyl, that because of the way they feel, they become so addicted to the feeling. But the belief that it's going to kill them doesn't exist. They don't believe that that's going to happen.
Those are the people who know, and they just don't believe it. There's a police officer that when fentanyl was first kind of like hitting the streets, a police officer actually just touched it through a bust or something, and he overdosed and died. Right. So that's how powerful this stuff is. Because
you know, there are certain chemicals in drugs that are fat soluble, meaning that you can actually put them on your hand and they'll go right through your skin.
Oh my!
Most chemicals aren't. Like, you can stick your hands in bleach. You know, you can stick your hand in. You can pick up rat poison with your hand. You know, and it's not going to kill you.
Okay.
But fentanyl, if you stick your hand in a vat of fentanyl, you're dead. It's going through your skin. You know, so people who die from it don't realize what small amount it takes. The amount of fentanyl, pure fentanyl, that it takes to kill a person is 2 to 2.5 milligrams. Now, comparatively, to know how small 2 to 2.5 milligrams is, that's the weight of a standard sized mosquito.
What?
A mosquito.
Wow.
2 milligrams. That's all it takes to kill you.
Wow.
Amanda only had a speck of it in her.
A speck. So let's going back to Amanda. Here's this kid who had just she had smoked weed, kind of got into the party scene a little bit. She was by no means like this major drug dealer, and ends up accidentally addicted to fentanyl. So there was so then, knowing the story, you brought her back. You got a call, right? Take us to that moment that you got that call. What did you think when you got that call from LA saying you need to come get your daughter?
The landlord called me and said, you need to come out here. They were all taking whoever had the Xanax that was laced, they were taking it. But you never know who it's going to attack. But Amanda, it just got her really bad. And
Okay.
they said that they were worried about her. So I brought her home. And then she started going to the clinic, the methadone clinic. And then, they meet people that prey on vulnerable people that.
I hate that.
Yeah.
So, okay, tell us. Okay, this part always gets me. It gets me fired up. So, she goes to a methadone clinic here in town, right?
Yes.
And then becomes a prey to somebody who was there waiting to get people out of there. So, have you been to the methadone clinic with her? I've never been to one.
No, but my sister did. She took her there.
Okay.
I have been there. I went there.
So, okay, so they go in, get methadone, and come out.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
So, if there's somebody there preying on people, they should or would start recognizing that, correct?
Right.
I mean, because it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of leeway. Like, it's not like an AA meeting or an addiction meeting where you're spending an hour with these people.
Right.
So, am I missing something as far as, like, is there opportunity? Because Amanda's not the only one that I've heard this type of thing about. Is there an opportunity that I'm not understanding that these people are literally being snatched out of these methadone clinics for because we're going to get back to her story, but that was a pivotal thing.
Here's the here's the problem. My sister spent probably a year and a half in a methadone clinic in Baltimore. And the thing about drugs and drug distribution is you have the drug dealer who most times utilizes that philosophy that we all heard in the Scarface movie with Al Pacino, where the guy says, remember this, don't get high on your own supply.
Okay.
And so the drug dealer knows that drug addiction is something that he does not want to deal with because he's all about making money. So a lot of times you have drug dealers who don't do drugs at all.
Okay.
They're basically the distribution center for everyone else.
Okay.
That's one type of person. And if that person is out trying to grab people at a methadone clinic, you would see them.
Okay.
Because they would be the only person who looked like they were conscious.
Got it.
But the other side of that is the drug distribution person is the drug addict that works for the drug dealer. Now, who does he look like or she look like? They look like the rest of the drug dealers. The drug addicts. It's just that they're walking around with the supply in their pocket because they know that if they sell X number of bags of drugs to the drug addicts, they get theirs for free.
Okay.
So you can't see those people because they look like they blend right in. It's not like the fox that's in the hen house.
Right. Okay.
He's there, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's the wolf in sheep's clothing.
Right. Yeah, that makes
It
sense.
looks like everybody else, and you can't see that person. And the thing about being at a methadone clinic is methadone clinics are not in the business of getting drug addicts off of drugs. They're in the business of making sure that drug addicts don't have to commit all types of crimes in order to receive their drugs or what they need. It's about trying to allow the rest of society to be able to live comfortably. No one's going to break in my house and steal my TV or break in my car in my driveway, steal my car, run down the street and snatch my purse while I'm walking down the street, because the drug addicts are now lined up at the methadone clinic and they're getting their drug in a cup.
Drugs.
They just drink it and they walk out on the street, and if you look over there 15 minutes later, they're sitting on the sidewalk falling over. They got their fix and they didn't have to steal your purse to get it. So the purpose of the methadone clinic is not purpose to cure drug addiction. It's to bring crime down for the rest of society.
Right.
And herd all these drug dealers over into this one area where we can control them by giving them their fix.
Right.
And then they hang out right there on the corner, pass
My
out on
goodness.
the street corner. And
Okay.
when my sister was in the methadone clinic, I asked her, and this is what I learned about it.
Yeah.
I asked her, I said, well, you're on the methadone, and that's great. No more the heroin, no more intravenous drug use. How long are you in the methadone clinic before you're free and you're clean?
Right.
And she said, no, you're never done with methadone. You just,
my goodness.
you stay in the clinic. I said, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
And she said, well, I have friends that I have met in Baltimore that have been at this methadone clinic for 30 years.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, she said, but they will wean you off of it if you request it.
What? Oh, I'm so like,
mean,
I'm like,
it's-
And I
vivid
said,
right
okay,
now.
then we're requesting it.
Yes.
And so I went, we requested for them to wean her off. My sister
Wow.
passed away probably about a year and a half after that. She was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, but her last years, she was clean.
She was clean. Wow.
You know,
But that
we
took
request
you
to-
saying that.
we want to wean her off the methadone.
Okay, so I'm going to come back and ask you what resources or who is helping people get clean, because obviously the methadone clinic is not the one helping. Like you said, you stated the purpose, but who's actually helping? And if somebody's finding themselves with their kid, kind of if you recognize any of what we're talking about and you find yourself in that, we want to make sure that we give you, to let you know that you're not alone, to let you know that it's there, but to also kind of give you some direction or some hope as well. But Donna, what were you trying to say?
My purpose for all this is, I wish somebody did this for Amanda and my family and all these families that are losing loved ones. We have to get to the kids. The methadone clinic, it might work for someone. Personally, I don't get it. It just made things completely worse for Amanda, because she just met somebody that just fed her drugs and kept her on the street.
But who, if you don't mind me backing up, that's kind of what people suggest, right? Like the government pushes you into the methadone clinics, correct?
Right.
So when you have a problem, that's pretty much what people say. Oh, take them to the methadone clinic.
Right.
Okay.
And you meet more people that are addicted to drugs, and like I said, people are preying on. But that and I know the Narcan can definitely save your life. There was a Narcan right next to Amanda. She's been Narcan many times, but if there's not somebody there to Narcan you, and a lot of the times, like the methadone clinic, they will get you off of it. They give you whatever that is. They give
Okay.
you so you're not using it. But the problem is then you're if you relapse one time, and this is why everyone's dying. You relapse and you die because your body's not used to it. And that fentanyl is so powerful. You cannot, I mean, there was a teeny tiny bit of fentanyl in her.
So
My thing is, we just have to,
tell the kids.
I mean, Narcan's great. It can save, it's only going to save you so many times. If you're going to be alone,
Right. So tell us, okay, real quick to, and then I want to ask for your message to every kid.
yes.
If you could talk to 1,000 Amandas,
Okay.
I want that message. But
Okay.
tell us a little bit. Okay, so you brought her back home. She meets this guy at the methadone clinic, and then she's off, right? And then that resulted in you spending numerous nights out on the street looking for her, trying to find her, correct? You were just out there constantly worried about her because she was with this guy, right?
Right.
Okay, so that was what, 3 years? 3 years of kind of like living that type of life?
Well, she's been, I brought her home. I'm not sure when that exactly was, but she's been home for a couple years, yes, doing the methadone
Okay.
clinic. And then when she met this individual, that was probably about a year. that
Okay.
she was, and then on the street.
Okay, so she was on the, and so you would be up nights looking for her and,
Oh, yeah.
and stuff. And I know so many parents can relate to
Yes,
that.
yes.
Just that worry, and you want to say, I'm never doing this again. But then there you are, just a little bit later, just
No, I
trying
never
to find
gave
them.
up on her.
So okay,
Okay.
so then she got into trouble and ends up on house arrest.
Yes.
Right? Okay,
Yes.
so then you breathe a sigh of relief.
Yes.
Because
I
you
had
think,
her
okay,
home.
she's finally home.
I have her
That's-
home. I got her a lawyer. I just.
Okay, and then tell us about those last and final days. How was she being back home? Did she start to kind of like connect again? Did you feel like you were knowing your daughter, or was it?
She looked sad. She looked sad, but she was hopeful and she was ready to get her life together. And but she was scared, and she said, "Yeah." And
Yeah, so
I was
27 years old, still beautiful, gorgeous. You couldn't even tell. She didn't look like your traditional drug addict on the street, you know?
I never
Okay.
really even knew, other than
And you have
it
other.
makes you depressed and you sleep a lot. Other than that,
So you have other kids. How was her relationship? How were they dealing with all this at the time that she was back home?
well, her siblings loved her to death, and
Yeah.
still do. But they supported her. They wanted her better.
Yeah. So everybody was kind of maybe a little bit hopeful. She wasn't on the street.
Absolutely.
She wasn't okay. And then, so she's on house arrest. She can't leave to go get drugs.
No.
So how did she end up? It just kind of, I know it's going to be hard, but walk us through what happened.
Somebody did drive by and brought her something.
Man.
Having worked with the court systems
Yeah.
in New Jersey, and to some degree, I know a lot of the judges here. I'm good friends with certain judges, drug court and things like that. I just think that there are certain methods that the court system uses
Okay.
that are not blanketly effective in every situation.
Right.
I believe that a house arrest ankle bracelet
Yeah.
that you have, because it now monitors
Right.
your movement away from that Wi-Fi at your house. You can only go a certain distance
Yeah.
from it to it, and they know that you're not there. That's great for a person who is a bank robber, is somebody who steals cars, who
Okay.
Right.
whatever. It's great.
Yeah.
But I don't think house arrest works for people who are drug addicted,
I don't either.
because she was put on house arrest.
Right.
And this is not anything against the court system or the court or the judge that did it.
Right.
It's the system. It's bigger.
The system.
The system. When you take a person who's a drug addicted person, and we found them somewhere, she's been gone, whatever, and now she's under house arrest. What is that house arrest for? Is that so that she makes it back to court? Because she's a flight risk? Or is it to try to protect her from the reason why she's going to court in the first place, which is her drug addiction? Because if that's the case, that's not going to work. It will make sure that she's home when her court date comes up.
Got it.
But if someone is able to come to the house
Right.
Yeah.
and bring the drug, it's anticlimactic to have an ankle bracelet, because the drugs are being delivered to her, and now she doesn't make it to court, not because she ran, but because she ended up passing away from a drug overdose because somebody brought it to the house, and there's no way for the ankle bracelets to prevent that from happening. So what do we do in that situation? It might be better. It might be better if you found the person, and you got them in your jail.
Yeah.
Keep them there.
Keep them there.
There you go.
I tried
Keep
to.
them there
They
until
don't.
their
They
court
get 'em
date,
out.
and then from their court date, then you put over them. One of my
That's
good
so
friends
good.
is Judge Durkin
Okay.
with the drug court
Yeah.
in Youngstown, the best drug court in the country.
Yep.
And what a great program that they have, because once now you've now come into the court system.
Yeah.
They now, for fear of continued jail time, they can now hold the specter of incarceration over your head against going to a program
That's good.
to be able to get clean. And for some people, that's the only option they have.
Yeah.
If you don't have, because you don't have anything else you can hold over their head.
Right.
But the fact that if you get caught dirty,
Right.
you're going straight to jail.
Yeah.
You're going to sit there. And then we'll bring you back in here and you tell us exactly what do you want to do with your life now. We're going to give you another chance. And I think that with drug addicts, they need to be kept in jail to their court date. And then after their court date, they need to be put into some type of a program that basically guides them in the right direction, because that's the only shot people have.
That's so good. We have covered so much. I'm telling you, I feel like there's so much that could be changed if politicians, if the people that they would just listen. There's so many different things that could be changed through experience. If Donna, I'm going to come back to you for some final words and how they could reach out to you if you're willing. I know that you work with already and you're always traveling and stuff, but if you're willing for somebody to reach out to you as a resource, to be able to share that. But Donna, any parting thoughts? And then I would like for you to give 3 pieces of advice just in a quick minute or so. What would you say to the 4th grader, Amanda's? What would you say to the Amanda's right in the heart, in the mix of she's already in trouble? And what would you say to the moms, to the mothers? You've lived it. I'm sure you've said numerous times, you've looked back and just gone over everything so many times. So what would you say to either moms in your position or moms that are where you were?
Definitely, without a doubt, we need to talk to kids and listen. But mostly, it's just we have to really educate them on how dangerous the drugs are today. I mean, when we're talking about the methadone clinic and house arrest and all that, this fentanyl that's in everything is so addicting and so powerful. I mean, me personally, I did everything and would have done anything for my daughter. I never gave up on her at all. I loved her to death. And I couldn't do anything for her. I couldn't save her. Obviously, we have to get the kids. They have to be afraid to try street drugs. The fentanyl is in them, and the fact that they don't know and they're not being taught about this drug is sad to me. It's sad, and social media. We've just kind of got away with teaching them about it and saying no to drugs. And if they don't know, they won't say no.
Right.
So
right. And you need to say no to that friend.
Can't try
You
it.
need to be able to say, and practice at home, practice with your kids saying no.
Yes.
Try to talk them into saying yes and let them practice saying no.
You can die.
Because
you die. Or if you don't die, it took over Amanda. And she was trying to get off it. But the problem is that fentanyl, you cannot be off it. And this is why they're all dying, is because you cannot relapse. If you relapse at all, you die.
When you were saying about, let me just tell you this real quick.
Yeah.
When my daughter was 5 years old, 6 years old, I used to have conversations with her because she was my only child.
Okay.
And I had my daughter, and no other children. I had my daughter, what some people consider late.
Okay.
My daughter was born, I was 38.
Okay.
And by the time my daughter was born, most of my friends were grandparents.
Right.
Were grandparents. But anyway, I used to tell my daughter when she was like old enough to conceptualize what I was talking about, I would say, I called her Peanut. I said, Peanut, she was like maybe in the car, we'd be riding along, and she'd be like 8 years old and 7 years old. And I'd say, Peanut, if one of your friends is smoking a cigarette, and they give you a cigarette to smoke, what are you going to say? And she go, you mean those things that people be putting in their mouth? She said, I'm not doing that. I'm not smoking no cigarette. You know, and every couple of days I'd have that conversation. Then I said, okay, well, Peanut, one day she's like 12 years. One of your friends comes to pick you up and you guys go to a party, okay? And everybody's drinking alcohol at the party, you know, and you know how people get drunk and they're falling down. I said, well, if one of your friends that drove you there and she's drinking alcohol, you see her drinking alcohol, and she says, okay, we're ready to go. And you get it, and she's driving. What are you going to do? She says, I'm not riding with her. I said, well, what are you going to do? I'm going to call my mom. You know,
that's good.
One day I said to her, Marissa, you know that I love you no matter what. I don't care what you do. I love you. She goes, I love you too, Dad. I said, what if your boyfriend tells you, if you love me, then you'll sleep with me? What are you going to say? She says, then he's not going to be my boyfriend. I'm not doing that. Now, fast forward. My daughter's now a senior. Okay. At Richfield High School in Oradell, New Jersey. She's a senior. Her boyfriend at that time.
No way.
He's 1 year younger than her.
Okay.
She's graduating. He's got another year. He says to her, you're getting ready to graduate from high school. Do you love me? She says, yes. He says, well, if you love me, you'll sleep. Because he thinks he's losing her. You love me, you'll sleep with me. She said that day she broke up with him.
Because you had prepared her.
Now, watch this. My granddaughter, Layla, is 1 year old. My daughter comes from an environment that girls her age were getting pregnant, 16, 18, 17 years old, having children.
Right.
My daughter had her very first child at 31 years old.
Aww.
Because she had already been indoctrinated. What I say, and you asked Donna, what would you say to these young people?
Yeah.
I would start early in school, helping kids to understand this one phrase that everybody hears it all the time already in sports.
Yeah.
When a boxing official is standing between two boxers, and he says no low punches. When I say break, you break. When I say restart fighting, when I say the bell rings, go to your corners.
Yeah.
Listen to what I'm saying to you. And when he's all done, he says, now, guys, protect yourself at all times. Go to your corners.
Wow.
That's the thing that these kids need to understand. Protect yourself at all times.
That's good.
You've got to be conscious of everything, and we've got to start getting kids that
good.
repetitive method.
I like that. I want to repeat that.
It's not what you tell kids in the 4th grade or 5th grade. It's what you tell them continuously.
Yes.
It's got to be a message that never goes away, to where mastery of any message, and this is my final statement.
Yeah.
And I took classes on mastery. Mastery of any subject is only attained when you can give it back.
Wow.
Whatever I'm teaching you,
Yeah.
if I can sit and listen to you and you can tell me what I taught you, now you've mastered it.
That's
because
good.
now you can teach it.
There you go. And so that's the key to do for kids. Real quick, before we end with Donna and wrap it up, is there a way that they could reach out, connect with you on social media or any kind of website or anything?
They can reach out to me on my email.
Okay.
Is no spaces, ronaldking611@gmail.com.
Okay.
They can reach out to me on Instagram. IG is ronaldking611.
Okay. On Instagram.
IG.
Okay.
And my website for counseling and everything is letter R, fertileground.com. You are fertile ground, which means you have to make sure that you understand your fertile ground, because the thing about fertile ground is it'll grow whatever you put in it.
I got that right away. That's good. That is good. Okay, Donna. So first of all, I want to say so much love to you and your family. And
thank you.
I can't even begin to imagine. It sounds like you have a great family. but I know it's had to be hard on you guys. And so,
It's awful.
so much love. I'm so glad to call you friend now, recent friend.
Yeah.
But tell us your parting statements, and then just if somebody is listening and they are influential at a school around here and stuff, would you be willing to go and speak to kids the message that is kind of starting to really burn in your heart?
Absolutely, and that is my ultimate goal, is to get into schools and start educating the kids on this, and also to teach kids. I think at a young age, their medication is like the first answer. And I'll just give you a quick. My son was in third grade, and he was a boy. He didn't know how to sit still.
Of course.
The very first thing they said to me is, you need to put him on medication. And I was like, there's no way. He's just a boy.
That's horrible.
But he had a amazing teacher. Actually, she was second grade, Mrs. Watts. She, instead of that, there are ways to learn how to control yourself. He had to carry around a rug, a little piece of rug, and he had to sit on it. And he just learned to hold himself there. But medication should be the last resort.
I agree.
Anxiety. There's anxiety and they say mental illness. I'm learning more about this. I used to think when I heard mental illness, that's the term they use, mental illness, and I always just thought mental illness was, you'd think somebody's crazy, right? But there are so many different. I mean, I guess I'm learning that anxiety, I think we were talking about that, is not considered, but it is.
Right.
I'm not real sure, but
Right,
you
it's
just have
it's part of your overall mental health, but it's deeper than the mental health. It's a gut. The anxiety is connected to the gut. And I'm telling you, that's a whole topic in of itself. But people are dealing with anxiety all wrong, in my opinion.
They're our kids, and that's it. And my whole message also is where it started with Amanda. It's okay to be different. We really are. We're just putting our kids in the schools and trying to fit them all in one form, and they're learning. And we're not changing our schools with the times. We need to change it up. My whole thing is there's no socialization in our schools, and that's kids need to communicate with each other.
Yes.
We need to be talking. They need to listen to each other and stop being everything is competition, and it's just sad. It breaks my heart, the sad kids, that if it's just got to change, and I really just that's my goal. I started this nonprofit organization. It's AM Wake Up Call.
Okay.
AM for my Amanda McAuley. And
that's so great. Okay, I didn't even put that together.
I know.
Okay, and that's amwakeupcall.com?
.org.
.org.
Yes, it's important. .org. I am asking for donations.
Okay.
I am willing to do the work. This is now my life journey. I'm committed to it.
Okay.
Of course, I'm going to need help.
Yes.
I have a team right now, but my thing is getting to our kids. We're never going to get rid of drugs, but our kids can say no, and we can wipe them out when they start saying no.
And I have a goal that this area that has been deemed as one of the ground zero areas for this.
Absolutely.
I have a goal that this area will be more connected, and with more connection comes healthier communities.
Yes.
Because communication is the language of community. So if we could learn to communicate with the kids and teach them to communicate with each other, we could totally offset the plans that they have, whoever has.
And let's start in Youngstown, Ohio.
Come on,
Let's make
what I'm
the
talking about.
change.
Yes,
we got good people.
We do.
We got great people here. We are. We're amazing.
Yeah. So AM Wake Up Call, if somebody wants to kind of even get involved and help you, boots on the ground, maybe they've been through it, or maybe they just have a passion, they could kind of team up with you and really spread the influence of what you're trying to do.
Or you can email me at amwakeupcall911.com.
I like you got 611 911. I like it. At what.com?
911.
AM wake up call 911
Gmail.
or at gmail.com.
At Gmail. Thank you.
At gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
Thank you, that's
Okay,
it,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
it.
I
That's the email.
Okay. AM wake up call 911 at gmail.com.
I'm just starting all this. I
I love it.
lose my daughter, and
Yes.
yes,
But what a great thing that you're doing from it. Guys, seriously, I feel like we need to go
For sure.
and sit down with the politicians and have this conversation.
Absolutely.
But for right now, I thank you so
you.
much for both of you guys for sharing your expertise and Donna sharing your story. I know it's not easy, but the impact, and now you guys know as you're driving around town and you see say no to the F word, you know the story behind that story.
Well,
And-
don't use the F word. It's using. Don't want to
Yeah,
use fentanyl.
don't use
You don't want to use
the
drugs.
F word. Yeah, no, any drugs. Any drugs, guys. It's not a phase. It's not fun. You might see somebody and you're like, well, they do it, but you don't know the whole story and you don't see them in 10 years down the road. Just think about that person. If any young people are listening to this, or anybody of any age, and you look at other people, coworkers, friends, and you're like, well, they do it and it doesn't seem to affect them. Don't look at right now. Think about where that person's going to be 10 years down the road and say, do I want to be how I could imagine them being 10 years from now? Because that's the picture. It's not right now. Right now, everybody looks like, oh, they're just getting away with it. The first time, it never looks like, it's going to be the end. So thank you guys
It is.
so
Thank
much
you.
for listening. Thank you
bless
guys.
you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you.
guys, this is our very first episode of the Youngstown Click podcast. Super excited. Thank you to Ohio Flame, guys. Check them out. Great fire pits and a gathering point, because nobody really does a bonfire alone. You always want to invite a friend. You want to invite the family. You want to make some s'mores. So Ohio Fire, they are another aspect of the gathering place and community and connection. So thank you, Cigar Studios. That's where we're at. If you guys are in Hubbard, make sure you stop and check it out. They'll give you a tour of this super amazing place. You guys love it, right? Isn't it
I
pretty
love it.
impressive
Oh,
here?
I'll be
Yeah.
back.
Very, very comfortable. Very great. So, all right, guys, until next time, thank you so much. And tune in next week for yet another episode of Youngstown Click Podcast.